Samsung Galaxy A51 review. Please take 3 seconds to click the subscribe button on our channel for more upcoming videos. A mid-ranger with plenty of polish. The Samsung Galaxy A51 is a relatively affordable Android phone you might buy if you can't stretch to the Galaxy S20. A lower price comes with obvious downgrades. The back is plastic rather than glass, the cameras aren't as good, even if there are 5 of them, the chipset is less powerful, and nice to have extras like water resistance are absent. On the rear of the A51 is what Samsung calls a prism design, with differing visual textures across the back of the device. That gives some shimmer and interest, the black rectangle of the camera standing proud, something of a Samsung hallmark in 2020. At $399, the Samsung Galaxy A51 seems a surefire hit. However, there are more obvious performance issues here than in alternatives like the Motorola Moto G8 Plus and Oppo Reno 2Z. Android moves a little too slowly. Parts of the camera app do too at times. Thankfully, games aren't affected as badly. PUBG fans, don't worry. One thing that Samsung has got right on this phone is the display. At 6.5 inches, it's generous in its diagonal size, while the full HD Plus resolution means there's plenty of pixels for a decent quality. It's an AMOLED display, as you'd expect to find on a Samsung phone, offering very much the experience you'll find on other Samsung devices. That means plenty of pop to colors and nice dark blacks. The phone's frame is made of plastic, same as last year, and much like the A50, the A51's physical buttons are all on the right. What was the point of the whole buttons on the left switch we saw on the Note 10? The buttons themselves have decent travel, but they do click a bit less satisfyingly if you press them off-center. The Samsung Galaxy A51 has 4 rear cameras. But when you first boot up the camera you may be left wondering what half of them do. There's no zoom, which is the classic sign of a multi-camera setup where extra lenses are used to bulk up the numbers. We can't blame Samsung completely for this, as it is not easy to fit a good zoom camera into a reasonably priced phone. You get a 48MP main camera, a 12MP ultra-wide one and a pair of 5MP cameras used for close-up macro images and for background blur depth shots. It's not hard to spot the filler, those two 5MP cameras. But this case is much less egregious than, for example, what Oppo has tried recently. The Oppo A9 2020 has a couple of intensely useless 2MP cameras. The Samsung Galaxy A51's 5MP macro camera will not see you win a Wildlife Photographer of the Year award, but it is fun to play around with. You can get extremely close to your subject, and shoot objects the main camera won't even focus on. Its main issue, other than only passable image quality, is blurring. A little handshake movement will ruin your photos unless the light level is good. This is still a useful macro camera, and offers another way to think about how you take photos. The Samsung Galaxy A51 is one of the cheaper phones we've seen with an acceptable macro camera. Samsung does not seem too proud of it, though, as you have to dig into the extended menu to find the macro mode. We would not be surprised if many A51 owners never do. The main camera's sensor is the Sony IMX582, seen in a stack of Chinese phones. Like most 48MP phone sensors, it takes 12MP images and uses pixel binning to improve image quality. The Samsung Galaxy A51's ultra-wide photos are also far more saturated than the standard wide shots, which makes grass look unrealistic, almost neon. This aside, ultra-wide images are solid. They offer lower dynamic range and less shadow detail than the main camera, but this is to be expected at the price. Wide shots are still well worth taking. Our final sensor helps with live focus photos, Samsung's version of a portrait mode where the background is blurred out. Other phones manage to create depth maps without a dedicated depth sensor, and here the blurring usually refuses to kick in if your subject is more than a couple of meters away. Still, the blurring effect is charming enough, and reasonable object recognition means it won't always be immediately obvious the shot was taken with a phone rather than a larger camera with a wide aperture lens. The Samsung Galaxy A51's portrait mode still tends to fall apart with complex subjects, as it will in most phones. Night shooting is not a Samsung Galaxy A51 highlight. It can brighten up scenes and there is a dedicated night mode, but we don't see anything like the low-light smarts Samsung put into the Galaxy S20. Dark shots often look blotchy and are low on detail. The night mode helps a bit. But only a bit, and it takes several seconds to finish the image. What's more noticeable, however, is that the graphic performance of this phone is limited. That's not the fault of the display, it's the fault of the mid-range hardware inside. In this case it's the Samsung Exynos 9611, paired with 4GB of RAM. That's supposed to be comparable to Qualcomm's Snapdragon 600 series hardware, if you're also looking at other similar phone specs. There are 4 Cortex A73 cores clocked at 2.3 GHz, and 4 lower power Cortex A53 cores at 1.7 GHz. It's the same dual cluster arrangement seen in almost every phone at the price. And it earns the phone 1,288 points in Geekbench 5, very similar to the Huawei P30 Lite, the Motorola Moto G8 and Motorola One Action, and the Google Pixel 3a. The GPU is a triple-core Mali G72, which again offers very similar graphical power to the Adreno 610 and 612 graphics chips used in Qualcomm-powered alternatives. While most functions of the A51 are speedy enough, you'll notice the lack of graphic performance, meaning that this isn't a great phone for gaming. On Call of Duty Mobile, for example, textures are stripped to make the game simpler to keep it running smoothly. Other games tend to fare much better. PUBG runs perfectly well with HD graphics and anti-aliasing switched on. With most titles you get an experience fairly close to that of a more expensive phone, which is a sweet consolation after the general performance hitches. The Samsung Galaxy A51 screen also makes games look great. But there's a lot of Snapdragon-powered competition at the price, and they seem to offer more consistent results. Speaker quality is fair. There's a single driver on the bottom, one with solid maximum volume. Treble is a little abrasive, maxed out, and we'd ideally like a stereo array, though. While day-to-day interactions with the phone, like opening apps and using all the different services, run just fine, it's the camera that's fairly slow to launch. Double-press the power button shortcut and there's time for you to wonder if you did it correctly before the camera actually opens. Go to take a photo and the unnecessary camera shutter noise lags behind the actual capture of the photo itself, which doesn't make for a great experience. This divides the experience of the phone. Push it hard and it can't really keep up, draining the battery fairly quickly, but stick to checking your emails and scanning Instagram and things are fine, with much better resultant performance from the onboard battery. It's a large capacity battery, too, so on average days you'll end up with life left in this phone, which is one thing you needn't worry about at least. The Samsung Galaxy A51 has a 4000 mAh battery, which is about as low a capacity as we are comfortable with in a phone with a 6.5-inch screen. Its longevity is reasonable, if nothing more. We haven't regularly had to recharge the Samsung Galaxy A51 in the afternoon just to make sure it makes it to lights out, but we are usually left with little charge by the late evening. We also tested how much video playback eats the battery at maximum brightness. Here the Samsung Galaxy A51 benefits from an efficient OLED panel. On our first attempt a 90-minute video took just 6% off the charge level, an excellent result. However, this phone holds on to its reporting of 100% charge level for quite some time. On a second attempt, with the battery level starting below full, it lost 10%. We also re-ran the test in bright conditions to make the Samsung Galaxy A51 use its boosted brightness mode. It lost 13% charge at max brightness. All of these results are good, suggesting any shortfall in battery is not down to the display. The Samsung Galaxy A51 does come with a fast charger, a lower-end 15-watt one. Charge speed is not close to the 50% in 30 minutes gold standard. A 30-minute charge from flat took the phone to 31% battery, and a full charge will take around 2 hours. The phone does not support wireless charging, but we would be surprised if it did at the price. You only tend to see wireless charge support in more expensive phones. The Samsung Galaxy A51 comes with a lot of the refinement that you get on the company's other phones, because the software is essentially the same. Based on Google's Android 10, it carries Samsung's One UI over the top, version 2.0 at the time of writing, which gives you the same overall functions as options as you get in the Galaxy S20 devices. That's one area where this phone really shines. There's no shortage of customization options and we've long been fans of Samsung's generally clean software approach. That's especially true in the mid-range, where there's a lot of competition from devices running slightly less agreeable systems, such as Xiaomi's MIUI, which we don't think is as refined. There are purer phones out there, like the Nokia 7.2 or the Google Pixel 3a, which both have a cleaner take on Android. But in many cases, there's little difference in the day-to-day experience. While there are some obvious limitations caused by the lower-tier hardware powering the Galaxy A51, for most of its normal tasks it's perfectly snappy. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more upcoming videos.